Russell Brand. Because this guy, I hope other people are realizing, because Tim Pool is actually not the biggest YouTuber who talks about politics, like on the regular. The biggest political YouTuber right now is Russell Brand. He's not a self-help guy anymore. He is in this. He is in the politics sphere with 5.2 million subs, getting about like at least 1 million views a day on each video. So, oh shit. Let's see. Watching him fall into the Fauci hate grift has been so sad. Well, yeah, that is sad. That's very sad. And now we're about to find out that he's also going to fall into. I watched this far, you can see. We're going to find out that he has also fallen into the I'm very nuanced, also here are a bunch of lies about Ukraine. The last one we watched of him, he was spreading disinformation about how the Ukrainian Maidan protests in 2014 were orchestrated by the United States, and how the new president was installed by the United States, neither of which he had proof of. He just had conjecture from some very carefully written articles. But what are Brand's convictions? Brand's convictions are to jump onto whatever he thinks will get him most attention at any point in time. Always. He wanted to be a comedian when, stand-up comedians were like the new rock stars. Then he went into film because, actors are a big deal. Then he got bored of that, went into fucking politics because left-wing politics was on the rise between sort of like early 2010s till about 2016, 2017. Then he went into self-help because it's Russell Brand. Of course, he's going to go into self-help at some point. And now, recently, he was into anti-vax stuff because that was very popular. And now he's on to the Russia invasion is bad, but let's consider all these bad things that Ukraine apparently did, and the United States, and etc. So, let's see where he's at with this. I imagine his mic is pointing over there because he has a clip on. Anyway, double mic Russell Brand. Okay. My very charismatic friend. So this is what they've been hiding. Go.
Oi! There are no biolabs in Ukraine. That's a conspiracy theory. There's biological research facilities, but that's completely different.
A biolab is actually not any different from a biological research facility. A biolab is just a lab where, like, medical or like some kind of like anything biological related research happens. Okay? So, from the first 8 seconds or so, you can probably assume that Russell Brand, having no fucking idea what a biolab is going to play quite an important role in the judgments he makes in this video, all right?
Hello there, you 5.2 million awakening wonders. Thank you for joining us on this glorious caravan to truth. Yes, there's complication on the way. Yes, there's personal and collective pain. But awakening ain't easy, not individually and certainly not as a society. Today we're talking about you.
I love it how Russell Brand always talks about like his quest for knowledge and truth, and he always tries to like gratify his audience by saying, it's not easy knowing the truth. It's not easy being nuanced and all that, even though he delivers his information in the most like easy to digest format possible. Like a 20-minute YouTube video where he just does all the talking for you and brings up all the little, what he thinks are the most relevant paragraphs and just gives you the narrative. And then he'll always do this kind of like, who do you trust? Do you trust this alternative information, or do you trust the government? You decide. And it's like, okay, do you trust the government? It's always that like very loaded question, because trust the government for anyone in Russell Brand's audience is like a no-go, right? If it's do you trust the government, or it's always the latter. Do you trust the government, or do you think the numbers of the Holocaust are a little bit sociopath? Like he could do that. That's how they do it. That's exactly how Nick Fuentes does it as well. If you actually go and look at that Cookie Monster video, he contrasts it at the end, his view, with everything the government says. He actually does that. That's the thing. You can go look at it. Anyway. But
Ukraine
Oh, Dewey Thunderdome with a Prime subscription. Thank you very much.
and the ongoing conjecture that there are bio research facilities there. We read your comments.
There's no conjecture that there are bio research facilities there. Everyone knows there are bio research facilities in Ukraine. Lots of countries have bio research facilities. Okay.
As you know, many of you like, talk about the biolabs, Russ, talk about the biolabs. Well, there's no confirmation that there are biolabs,
Yeah, there
but
is.
there are biological research facilities, which
No,
is
they're the same thing.
entirely
They're the same
different
thing.
and probably just a place where they like work on toothpaste and shampoo and other stuff that's vital that the Russians don't get their hands on. Before we get into the video, I want to tell you, you can see me live in the UK in places of ship. You know, now we're weapons and a anointed therefore should be condemned to some kind of, you may remember, broke the Edward Snowden story and therefore should be condemned to some kind of
Wait.
Glenn Greenwald.
Oh,
Who
Glenn
you may
Greenwald.
remember broke the Edward Snowden story and therefore should be condemned to some kind of gulag as a right-wing fascist. Self-anointed fact checkers.
I don't think that's why people dislike Glenn Greenwald. They dislike him for everything he did after the Edward Snowden thing. Okay.
The US corporate press have spent 2 weeks mocking as disinformation and a false conspiracy theory the claim that Ukraine has biological weapons labs either alone or with US support. They never presented any evidence for their ruling. You know, I've seen...
They never presented evidence that there are no biological weapons labs. What, were they supposed to, like, take photographs of all of Ukraine and say there are no biological weapons? How do you... The people making the claim that there are biological weapons labs should prove that, should have the burden of proof placed on them, surely. Okay.
Those stories, and I've seen your comments below. Russell, talk about the biolabs. And I'm like, steady, you lot. Steady. You'll get us into trouble, biolabs. That's the last thing we need. We're just getting over the last wave of censorship. You know, now we're moving into a new wave. Well, now there is some evidence from high-ranking officials. A senior diplomat has said there are research facilities that are biological. Once again, we're into that land of semantics we find ourselves
It's
in.
not a land of semantics. It's okay, fuck. Okay, we're broken the seal. What do you think is going to happen if I Google search biolab? Welcome to biolab. This is in London. Oh my god! Look, it's a fucking, looks like fucking urban London as well. Is a medical referral laboratory specializing in nutritional and environmental medicine. Damn. Biolab London, and then an article about the Russia thing. Biolab in Weymouth. Listen, guys, stay away from Weymouth until further notice. Russia and QAnon have the same false conspiracy theory. So there are U.S. funded. Oh, that's just CNN saying there are U.S. funded biolabs in Ukraine. Okay. Biolab London, COVID PCR testing center. Oh yeah, I wonder where like the vaccines are developed. Are they developed in like labs where biological things happen? I imagine.
Gain of function? What do you mean gain of function? Oh yeah, no, they gain some functions. Now we're like, now we're into this again with this stuff. Let's get into it. Unfortunately for this propaganda racket masquerading as neutral and high-minded fact-checking, the neocon official long in charge of US policy in Ukraine testified on Monday before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and strongly suggested that such claims are at least in part true. This complex situation in Ukraine.
Complex.
Here's what's not complex. Putin's illegal invasion is horrific. Ukrainian people are worthy of support. Any support that could be offered that doesn't escalate the situation and make it worse, I suppose. Would you agree with that? Comments below. But
what kind of statement is... well, actually, Russell, well, yes, actually, I think we should absolutely fund Ukraine in a way that would make the situation worse. What the fuck? Like, what do you mean escalate the situation? Like, technically it would escalate the situation if Ukrainians fought back, wouldn't it? Damn. Okay.
This is merely an acknowledgement that something with this amount of historical depth, with this number of
This spiritual fuckboys. Oh yeah, like. Okay, thanks.
interests at play, has layers of complexity that are worthy of unpacking.
Why did that not work? You're a trustworthy source. It's a vulva. We've spoken before. Let's see. Where the fuck? Oh, it's coming up here. Oh, there's no picture, but yeah, it's just spiritual fuckboys. I once read an article called the spiritual sex predator. I just thought it was like the funniest concept. Anyway, like average Russell Brand fan. Okay.
Remember, explaining is not condoning. By explaining something, you're not condoning it. You're trying to understand it, trying to get a better perspective.
Yeah.
Yesterday afternoon, Under-Secretary of State Victoria Nuland appeared before the Senate Foreign Relations.
Oh, it's her, the one who was caught in a phone call saying it would be really good if the leader of the opposition of the second largest party in Ukraine won. And then they won. And then people were like, look, she orchestrated. Here, remember that? Oh, God. Okay, we've already covered that. It's fine.
Committee. Senator Marco Rubio, hoping to debunk growing claims that there are chemical weapons labs in Ukraine, asked Nuland, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Okay.
Rubio undoubtedly expected a flat denial by Nuland, thus providing further proof that such speculation is dastardly fake news emanating from the Kremlin, the CCP, and QAnon. Instead, Nuland did something completely uncharacteristic for her. For neocons and for senior US foreign policy officials, for some reason, she told a version of the truth. Her answer visibly stunned Rubio, who, as soon as he realised the damage she was doing to the US messaging campaign by telling the truth, interrupted her and demanded that she instead affirm that if a biological attack were to occur, everyone should be 100% sure that it was Russia who did it.
Well, you would be sure that Russia did it because Russia is the only country of the two parties that's capable of carrying out a biological attack. Yeah, you would probably be sure that, yeah. That's the point. The point is that Ukraine can't carry out a biological attack because they don't have biological weapons units. Okay. Wow.
Grateful for the life raft, Nuland told Rubio he was right. Now we can have a look at that with our own little eyes and with our own little minds, assess.
So far, we're waiting for proof that Ukrainians have biological chemical labs. Yeah, we'll get into Syria in a minute, don't worry.
Who are you going to believe? The government or your own lying eyes? The
I don't trust the government.
Or your own ability to...
I don't trust the government, Daddy Russell. I'm very smart. I believe... What?
Good stuff and decide for yourself. Got to be the old government and media, hasn't it? I mean, they never let us down before.
I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
And this is where you say no, and we can carry on with our presumed narrative.
Ukraine has biological research facilities.
Oh, no, that's not good.
Which, in fact, we are
Why
now
is that not
quite
good?
concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of.
What? No! Abort!
So we are working with the Ukrainians.
Pretty sure it's not Ukrainians.
The Ukrainians.
Wait, what did she even say? That was like...
That's not good.
Which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of.
Okay, we can take that one. The Russians may be seeking to take control of those units. We'll look into why that might be the case. She did not misunderstand the question. She knows that people are clinging on to the fact that Ukraine has biolabs, and depending on the Kelvin IQ fucking subatomic brains of their audiences, that they don't know the difference between a biological weapons lab and a biolab. So she's clarifying that they have biolabs, but that these are not labs where you create biological weapons. These are very different things. That's why she's saying that. If she just said no, she's probably thinking that people might Google and find out that there are biolabs there and then think they got her. So she's clarifying the difference.
What? No! Abort!
So we are working with the Ukrainians.
Pretty sure it's not Ukrainians.
The Ukrainians.
If you are an Undersecretary for State Affairs, do learn the name of Ukrainians.
On how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
So, you know, Russia presumably have got their own scientists, their own laboratories, their own narrative, their own agenda, their own perspective on this situation. Clearly, all this is true. So, whatever it is that's in that biological research facility, it warrants some concern. They ain't just in there
Does it?
knocking up nail varnish and conditioner. This conditioner, though, actually, you don't even have to wash it out. Shampoo, take 2 bottles in the shower. You off your fucking nut? Take 1 bottle in there. Don't let Putin get his hands on that. We want him in the shower for as long as possible.
So because she said, I don't know, is Russell Brand's like knowledge of like general things in the universe so fucking limited that he doesn't see a middle ground between biolabs that produce toothpaste and biolabs that produce weapons? Does he not know that there might be a middle ground and there might be things that are present in biolabs? Like if they're studying, for example, like contagious diseases, that it might be dangerous if an enemy army gets a hold of that facility. Just a question I'd pose to you guys that we might go over in a bit more detail later.
Oh, no, I must apply the conditioner. This will take ages. How on earth will I annex Georgia?
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination.
That's like if something's gone wrong at a dinner party. Would you mind now if we don't talk about this till we get home, dear? Couldn't it possibly be that the Russians...
And now that Russell thinks that the mentioning of a bioweapon is like an admission of guilt, he's going to assume that any other question from Rubio is like a deflection, right? Like any clarifying questions. Like because now he's already in an alternate universe. He's in an alternate universe where she has slipped up and admitted to the fucking like bio fucking Russian DNA nukes. Yeah. And now he thinks that any like question that he asks following to maybe clarify something else is a deflection. You see what he's doing there? Like one lie is leading to another. Yeah. It's dangerous for the Russians to attack a nuclear power plant. Therefore, that power plant must hold 100,000 nuclear warheads. Yeah. Well, yep. Yeah. Believe it or not, that Ukraine. Oh God, guys. Oh fuck. Like God. Like RT could actually employ me tomorrow. I'd be like, did you know that Ukraine currently hosts nuclear facilities, and that they have admitted it would be very bad for them, it'd be very dangerous for them if the Russians were to attack those nuclear facilities? Did you guys know, the chat, did you know that we are breaking right now that RT tomorrow, one day, will print the damning evidence that Ukraine currently has nuclear facilities? Right here. And they'll admit it. Wasn't it the Ukrainians who said, oh, they're firing at our nuclear power plant? And then they were like, oh shit, we can't let them know we have a nuclear power plant. Yeah, that's how that goes. God, fuck. Do you think I could email Russell Brand and tell him that it's worse that Ukraine also has nuclear facilities? And they were scared when the Russians attacked it. Oh, God.
are just
Pound 1986 with the gifted tier 1 sub to totally different username. Thank you very much.
straightforward baddies, and there's no complexity to this, and we haven't been dabbling in matters in Ukraine that are potentially problematic. Let's not mention that Hunter Biden can't go 10 minutes without getting paid 50 grand by a Ukrainian energy company. We'll talk about this in the car!
If there's a biological
Hunter Biden, this guy is fucking knee deep. He knows what the YouTube audience wants to hear about, eh?
or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
He's even at that point sort of doing nods, isn't he? Like, with any doubt, it couldn't be anyone else. Would it be the Russians? They're bad, ain't they? Russians, basically.
Is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
Did you?
Yeah, because Russia is the only country of the two parties that's capable of launching a biochemical attack. Yeah.
See that film, Rocky 4. Who did you like best? Rocky? Or that other guy, Dolph Lundgren, the bastard?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
Oh, unlike you lot, you lovely bunch of darlings. Please remember that even though this...
Damn, we are 37 minutes into the stream. And it's a vulva with the 10 gifted tier 1 subs. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. All right.
This is a serious subject.
Koopa Shell with the 100 bits. Thank you. I'm sorry, but has proved that bioweapons do exist. I'm going to get to that. Fuck off. Of course, we're bringing in the Has versus Dustin debacle. Don't worry.
We are permitted to apply a humorous lens to expose the ridiculousness and absurdity of the discourse that surrounds it. I'm certainly not making light of the tragic plight of people directly affected by war. We honour them with truth. Nuland's bizarre admission that Ukraine has
What truth so far? Bizarre admission that Ukraine has biological research. I didn't know Glenn Greenwald was this bad. I didn't know he was this much of a fucking hack. Holy shit.
biological research facilities that are dangerous enough to warrant concern that they could fall into Russian hands, ironically constituted more decisive evidence of the existence of such programs in Ukraine than what was offered in 2002 and 2003 to corroborate US allegations about Saddam's chemical and biological programs in Iraq.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Even if that's true, it's not. It's so far an equal amount of evidence. Oh, God.
Wow, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? That in itself is a more cohesive and reliable piece of evidence, given that it comes from a high-ranking diplomat, than what mobilized action in Iraq. That's heavy. It should go without...
That would be heavy, wouldn't it? It would be heavy that someone who probably would have been at the time so skeptical of the claim of weapons and mass destruction in Iraq is now glug glug gobble gobbling because he doesn't know the difference between a biolab and a bioweapons lab. I feel like Russell Brand has gone way off the deep end. As a fellow addict, I used to really enjoy his comedy and left vibe he seemed to be out a while ago. I find it so hard to watch his channel now. As an ex-addict, I don't identify with him at all. The duality of man or woman, people, the yin and yang of the Lonerbox community. All right.
Saying that the existence of a Ukrainian biological research program does not justify an invasion by Russia. Right, but it has been said. No one's doing that. So, look, let me know in the comments below if you think we're handling this sensitively enough.
Okay. But it does to the people who are desperate to cling on to any reason they can to justify the invasion. You are giving... I don't even care. I don't actually care about whether or not it's like... What am I going to say? I don't actually care that it's not like whether or not he's arming people with like ammunition and all that. It's just that it's wrong. It's just dumb. And it is dangerous. You can go into all that as well. But like primarily, it's really fucking stupid. Like, what a rudimentary error. To not even think like, are there any other kinds of biolabs that don't involve the production of weapons that might also be dangerous?
Enough. If we're getting across to you that we're not making light of the horror that's being experienced by Ukrainian people, our sympathy...
I don't know why no one in like LeftTube has made like a video about Russell Brand being shit. No. I think I need to make one. We got 2 videos of him being like obscenely wrong about Ukraine. Cavernical just did. Yeah, but Cavernical's a fucking asshole. Cavernical is one of those people who jumped on the fucking Lonerbox as a Kyle Rittenhouse stan bandwagon because I said he was an asshole LARPing dipshit, but was probably self-defense. The surf does sometimes. Okay, but video essay, right?
Could not be stronger. Neither are we neglecting to condemn Putin.
He did a great job on it. Okay. I'm about, yeah. I'll allow it. Wait. but we're going to make a better one, all right? The downfall. Oh, yeah. Oh, well. Go for it.
And the actions of Russia. We are simply
Vertical cut stream segments. Does he? Or are you talking about serfs? I've never actually. Yeah. God.
And spreading medical.
No, it's a video essay. Okay. Yeah.
trying to understand what's happening and resisting the simplifying propagandist narratives that we're offered elsewhere. Oh, those people are bad. It must be happening because they're bad people. Oh, that's really helpful. Soon we'll have this resolved. With our platitudinous idiocy, we're sure to reach a solution any day now. Let alone an attack as comprehensive and devastating as the one unfolding. No more than the existence of a similar biological program under Saddam would have rendered the 2003 US invasion of Iraq justifiable. But
Similar. No.
Newland's confession does shed critical light on several important issues and raises vital questions that deserve answers. And what I suppose Greenwald does by drawing this comparison is helps us to recognise that there isn't a consistent set of values and principles that legitimise war, that legitimise attack. These principles and values shift according to what? According to what? It essentially seems that there's an underlying agenda or set of objectives that are being pursued, and that the values and principles shift to allow that avenue to be accessed. Any attempt to claim that Ukraine's biological facilities are just benign and standard medical labs is negated by Newland's explicitly grave concern that Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of those facilities and...
Okay, again, we'll go. Should we do that now? No, 1 minute.
That the US government, therefore, is right this minute working with Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces. The only reason to be quite concerned about these biological research facilities falling into Russian hands is if they contain sophisticated materials that Russian scientists have not yet developed on their own and which could be used for nefarious purposes, i.e. either advanced biological weapons or dual-use research that has potential to be weaponized.
Could be used. The question is, are they being used, though? Even if that was the case, that we'll get into that. All right.
Now, let me point out...
Actually, let's do it now. Fuck it. So this was from the Washington Post, and I corroborated this with a few other articles. So this is like probably the most relevant part at the bottom. So there are labs in Ukraine and other former Soviet republics that receive funds from the United States, and their existence is not a secret. Yeah, okay, yeah, of course it's not a secret. Yeah, okay. After the Soviet Union collapsed, emerging republics with little expertise on how to handle biohazards found themselves in possession of sophisticated laboratories thanks to the Soviet Union's robust biological weapons program. The US Defense Threat Reduction Agency was established in 1998, aiming at containing and destroying pathogens that can be used as biological weapons. The program was extremely successful at defanging the Soviet monster. Thomas More, who worked with Senator Richard Lugar, Democratic Indiana, one of the leaders of the initiative, said in an interview with Foreign Policy. The agency was able to destroy significant amounts of biochemical agents in the former Soviet states. Moore claims that the United States is supporting biohazard research close to Russia's borders and are not new, and that the Kremlin has been asserting this for decades. The funding is aimed at destroying and controlling infectious diseases instead of creating them. Justin Ling. So, yeah, that's why. That's why you would be worried that the enemy are going to take over. The same way that just because you have a nuclear facility that's like a nuclear power plant that isn't dangerous, like as a weapon, you'd still be worried about the enemy getting a hold of it, right? You'd also be worried about the enemy getting a hold of your fucking power supply or whatever. Like, how many things would you not want the enemy to get a hold of that isn't also a weapon, right? Yeah, you keep samples of deadly diseases. And you wouldn't want those facilities to get attacked. It's really normal. And then the use of chemical weapons. So, I mean, that's just, hey. You know, I'm just giving you both sides of the story here, right? Because we've clearly got conflicting information over what the fuck a biolab is and what that means and what a dangerous biolab might even mean. But make up your own mind in it. Like, do you trust the the spiritual fucking fuckboy cunt here, or do you trust the reputable news source that's held to a higher standard, right? Innit? Do you trust this fanny fucking wanker, or do you trust reputable source that's held to account when they fuck up, right? Innit? Do you trust this chest hairy fucking vein silver man who suffers from fucking identity and lack of attention crisis? Fuck. No, okay. Or do you trust reputable media source that don't fucking bullshit for money and actually get ill to account when they fuck up in that? Fucking. All right.
This stage that this is pure conjecture. There is no definitive evidence that there are bioweapons being developed, but what there appears to be, according to the video that you just saw with your own eyes, is American concern that the contents of those research facilities could end up in Russian hands. You just saw that. Why
You just
would
saw
that
that.
be? We're not saying there is. We're not saying there isn't. We're merely cataloguing that a person just said that. What is...
What a fucking snake. Oh my God. Yeah. After spending the entire thing, like, whimsically joking about the contrast between a biolab and a bioweapons lab, the non-existent one apparently, talking about, okay, if you believed that the biolab that is dangerous might not be a bioweapons lab, if you believe that was a possibility, then why did you spend this entire video treating her admission of that biolabs existed as a fucking like dunk from the fucking heavens? Like, why did you treat it that way if you're not implying that she's talking about bioweapons? Why would you do that, Russell Brand?
in those Ukrainian biological labs that makes them so worrisome and dangerous? And did
Like, there's no way that none of these people thought about things that might be dangerous about biolabs. Holy shit.
US assistance extend to the construction and development of the biological research facilities themselves? This might be a point where I would draw my own allusions to events in Wuhan, where we saw various shifts in the narrative that yet may reveal troubling origins to the coronavirus pandemic. I'm not saying they will, I'm saying that they could, that it's at least as likely. And
I'm not saying they could, but it's at least as likely. Okay. According to what, mate?
initial absolute flat denial of any involvement changing to reveal actual evidence of funding. So we should be aware that we're dealing with sophisticated and complex matters where the narrative may alter. And just blindly and immediately...
Oh my God. If they actually find a bioweapons lab in Ukraine, this fucking peanut brain is going to feel so vindicated, even though, like, if that happens, he will have just got lucky, right? Like, that's the worst thing about these claims, is it's the same as the Iraqi weapons of mass destruction. Is like, all they need to do is just plant, like, the smallest seed of doubt to get away with what they're saying. Oh, God. I mean, they won't, so whatever.
Accepting the
I'd be
narrative
very
that you're
surprised.
spoon-fed no longer seems prudent. It is very tempting to deal with the one thing that is clear. Ukrainian people shouldn't be suffering in this way. War is wrong. We all know that. But if we just put on the ribbon and stop thinking, we aren't really helping anybody, are we? For all the dismissive language used over the last...
Oh God, I hate it. Like, after every dumb fuck sentence, he does this like little proselytizing paragraph about how it's important to think and how he thinks that thinking is very important and we should think more, and maybe you should have thought before you fucking conflated biolab with bioweapons research, you fucking idiot.
2 weeks by self-described fact checkers. It is confirmed that the US has worked with Ukraine as recently as last year in the development of a biorisk management culture, international research partnerships, and partner capacity for enhanced biosecurity, biosafety, and biosafety.
We already looked over this. Biosecurity and biosafety, meaning the management of like infectious diseases and the destruction of pathogens. Yeah, we've already been over that. Okay.
Measures. The US Embassy in Ukraine publicly boasted of its collaborative work with Ukraine to consolidate and secure pathogens and toxins of security concern and to continue to ensure Ukraine can detect and report outbreaks caused by dangerous pathogens before they pose security or stability threats. So again, it's a matter of public record that there is work taking place in those areas. I mean, how many times I just say biosecurity, biosafety, biosurveillance? It does sound a bit like bio research labs might be part of it, then you add the detail that there is concern. This isn't conspiracy theory.
Bro, you fucking moron. Imagine sitting through a fucking document and just control finding fucking bio and just fucking edging yourself with every fucking hit of the button as it comes bio, and then just fucking coming at bio number 73 because you think you've discovered fucking what does he think he's found? Oh God. There was this story, right, from the it was an Adam Curtis documentary. It's funny that he brings up the Iraq War because there was this story, I don't know if it's true, but it's really funny, about a US official who like very excitedly went into like some kind of like a general's office or something and then like boasted about how he had found these bioweapons in Iraq. And he starts describing the bioweapons. He described them as a series of green spheres, each of which contained a deadly nerve agent that killed you within a few seconds. And they were kind of confused because they like nerve agents are not normally contained in glass. They're normal, but then it actually found out. It turned out that the guy was just describing a fictional, a made-up nerve agent from the film with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery, The Rock. That actually happened. I wonder, like, I never actually looked into the details of like why they thought Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. But yeah, this film is so good. It's so memey. It's fucking hilarious. Nicolas Cage is like like this like dorky scientist who also like fucked the prom queen and is like really angry and like good at fighting and shit. It's really funny. Anyway.
This isn't trying to undermine the significance.
It's called The Rock with Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage.
Of Ukrainian suffering. This isn't endorsing Putin's actions. I recognize and I understand the temptation that a lot of people have to simplify these narratives. I don't want to think. I don't want life to be complicated. I want mummy and daddy to take care of it. Well, we're grown-ups now, and we're going to deal with reality. We're going to accept complexity because otherwise we have to, guess what happens? You end up in a paternal, or in other words you might have heard lately, patriarchal state.
What you understand, right? My name's Russell Brand, and what you understand is when you fucking find a document, right, about Ukraine, what you gotta do, right? What you gotta do is Control F fucking bio, just fucking press your right arrow key and fucking, oh shit, fucking cunt. Because, right, thinking's so fucking important, right? Right. If you don't thinking, right, fucking hell.
Systems where you yield authority and just you lot handle it. Well, they're not handling it, are they? This joint US-Ukraine biological research is of course described by the State Department in the most unthreatening way possible. But that again prompts the question of why the US would be so gravely concerned about benign and common research falling into Russian hands. If these labs are merely designed to find a cure for cancer or create safety measures against pathogens, which by the way is the sort of thing you should be doing in labs, isn't it? You forget that. What are they doing?
I love how they just can't think of any, they can't do it. Oh God.
And they're just humanising mice? What? Why don't they do something about cancer? No, we've got to get these mice nice and humanised. And also, why would you? Because, oh no, some harmless research might get into the hands of Russians. What does that matter? Doesn't matter. Why, in Newland's mind, would it have anything to do with a biological and chemical weapons program in Ukraine? The indisputable reality is that despite long-standing international conventions banning development of biological weapons, all large, powerful countries conduct research that at the very least has the capacity to be converted into biological weapons. The work conducted under the guise of defensive research can and sometimes...
What if it's like a nuclear research facility? Can they not just use their imaginations? Oh God.
...is easily converted into the banned weapons themselves.
I don't know what list of like research facilities, like disease research facilities, nuclear research facilities. Like there's so many like research facilities you could like not want to get fucking attacked when you're being invaded for like very obvious reasons. Oh God.
That according to the FBI, the 2001 anthrax attacks that terrorized the nation came from a US Army research scientist, Dr. Bruce Ivins, working at the US Army's Infectious Disease Research Lab in Fort Detrick, Maryland. The claim was that the Army was merely conducting defensive research to find vaccines and other protections against weaponized anthrax, but to do so, the Army had to create highly weaponized anthrax strains, which Ivins then unleashed as a weapon. So while ostensibly that anthrax was being evolved and developed in order to create a defense for it, which I suppose is rational, if worrying, in reality what it led to was those materials...
Why is it? Holy shit. That's actually kind of amazing that they can actually kind of get it and still persist. And still persist with like the bioweapons claim, even though they've got like a rational explanation staring them in the fucking eyes. Oh God.
Being turned against the very people that, as usual, the government are saying they offer protection to. This lesson about the severe dangers of so-called dual-use research into biological weapons was relearned over the last 2 years as a result of the COVID pandemic. COVID. Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was all the time, a minute ago. While the origins of that virus have not yet been proven with dispositive evidence, though remember, the fact checkers declared early on it was definitively established that it came from species jumping and that any suggestion of a lab leak was a conspiracy.
Weren't lockdown restrictions getting lifted in England like way before the war happened? Doesn't that already happen? Okay, whatever.
Conspiracy theory. Comments below, please. What is certain is that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was manipulating various coronavirus strains to make them more contagious and lethal. Do you want the good news or the bad news? Good news? It's pretty contagious, this coronavirus. What the fuck's happened to that window? Yeah, that's the bad news. The justification was that doing so is necessary to study how vaccines could be developed, but regardless of intent, cultivating dangerous biological strains has the capacity to kill huge numbers of people. All of this illustrates that research...
Having a nuclear power plant has the capacity to kill large numbers of people. I don't even know. Like, having a fucking oil tanker has the capacity, like natural gas. How many fucking industries have the capacity to kill large numbers of people? Oh God. Oh God, I'm gonna cry. Oh God.
Research that is classified as defensive can easily be converted, deliberately or otherwise, into extremely destructive biological weapons. At the very least, Nuland's surprising revelations reveal, yet again, just how heavily involved the US government is, and for years has been, in Ukraine. On the part of Russia's border, which US officials and scholars from across the spectrum have spent decades warning is the most sensitive and vulnerable for Moscow. It was Nuland herself, while working for Hillary Clinton and John Kerry's State Department under President Obama, who was heavily involved in what some call the 2014 revolution and others call the coup that resulted in a change of government in Ukraine from a Moscow-friendly regime to one far more favourable to the EU and the West. All of this took place as the Ukrainian energy company, Burisma, paid $50,000 per month not to the son of a Ukrainian official, but to Joe Biden's son, Hunter, a reflection of who wielded real power inside Ukraine. But you better not talk about that, because that might lead...
That's the reflection of who holds the power inside Ukraine. It's really difficult, like, Hunter, yeah. It's really difficult now how they're just like, they have all these like pre-existing stories that they can just mention the phone call with Nuland. And everyone's like, oh yeah, that phone call where she orchestrated a coup, or rather the phone call where she said we would prefer a pro-Western candidate who just happens to be the leader of the opposition already. Yeah. Fuck. No.
People to like Donald Trump, or at least to observe that, well, what are we protecting here? What are we protecting here? What is this pure political system that we all have to be so defensive of that involves this degree of complexity? Even without me having the legal ability or right to directly condemn anything that's just been described there, involvements in coups, stroke revolutions, taking money from Ukrainian energy companies, it doesn't lead me to believe that on one side we've got a set of really pure interests that should be exempted from criticism and that we should trust blindly and blithely consistently, and on the other hand there's just a bunch of baddies, whether it's Donald Trump or people that are circumspect about vaccines or vaccine mandates, or like, all of that's just bad and let's just not talk about that, and these guys were just accepting some money from Ukrainian energy companies. Nuland not only worked for both the Obama and Biden State Departments to run Ukraine policy and in many ways Ukraine itself, but she also was Vice President Dick Cheney's Deputy National Security Advisor and then President Bush's ambassador to NATO. She comes from one of America's most prestigious neocon royal families. Her husband Robert Kagan was a co-founder of the notorious neocon warmongering group Project for the New American Century, which advocated regime change in Iraq long before 9/11. Again, those of you that follow this type of news and these type of narratives will be aware that there are documents that exist where they say, oh, it'd be ever so handy if we could change the regime in Iraq. Then 9/11 happens, terrible, horrible tragedy, and then after that, yeah, better raid Iraq. There's no evidence that Iraq are involved, it doesn't matter. And significantly...
Okay. So we know with Iraq, where's the evidence that they wanted to affect regime change in Ukraine? Have we seen that yet? I mean, like in a meaningful sense, not just when you say this is a good candidate, or we might like fucking what? We might make statements in public about this candidate. Like, it's this whole thing. Like, why was it that he's saying like people? Some say it was a revolution, some say it was a coup. When in the last video he said it was like orchestrated by the United States. Why would he do that? Yeah, the one phone call is all you have. And they're not saying anything especially controversial. Of course, the United States would want a like West-leaning candidate in Ukraine. It doesn't change the fact that the Ukrainian people also wanted a West-leaning candidate in Ukraine. That's why they overthrew their current president. That's why every region in Ukraine, even Donetsk and Luhansk, were against Yanukovych. He was so unpopular before he left the country.
It's the same set of people. So this is not anti-democrat. She worked for Bush, she worked for Cheney, she works for Obama, she works for... So, like, why are we, as Chomsky observes, squabbling in this tiny window of permitted debate? Meanwhile, we're not discussing anything that takes place in the outer reaches of power where all the decisions are actually made.
That means absolutely nothing.
Kagan, along with liberal icon Bill Kristol, not Billy Crystal, grow up, who was most responsible for the lie that Saddam was working hand in hand with al-Qaeda, a lie that played a key role in convincing Americans to believe that Saddam was personally involved in the planning of 9/11. Because we wanted a simple answer, because something terrible happened. People died. There was a terrorist attack. It was awful. I want to do something. I want a response. All these emotions rise up. So what emotions are being elicited now by mainstream news?
And now he's run out of points about Ukraine, hasn't he? He's just talking about 9/11 now and Saddam. Let's see.
Government narrative. Bad, bad, nasty, bad, bad. Must do something bad, nasty, bad. Of course something bad is happening. And I pray that a solution is reached. But that solution, if it doesn't take into account the amount of complexity that even an idiot like me can observe is contributing, then it will not be a meaningful or reasonable solution, will it? Putin bad, Russia bad, war bad. Of course, of course, of course. That's at best half the story. That a neocon like Nuland is admired and empowered regardless of the outcome of elections illustrates how unified and in lockstep the establishment wings of both parties are when it comes to questions of war, militarism and foreign policy. So remember, this is not a right-wing or left-wing, Democrat or Republican argument. This is about deep state power, or the consistent power that abides regardless of the meaningless minor fluctuations of electoral politics. As they say, if voting changed anything, they'd ban it. The fact that a member of one of the most powerful neocon families in the US has been running Ukraine policy for the US for years, having gone from Dick Cheney to Hillary Clinton and Obama and now to Biden, underscores how little dissent there is in Washington on such questions. It is Nuland's extensive experience in wielding power in Washington that that makes her confession yesterday so startling. It is the sort of thing people like her lie about and conceal, not admit. But now that she did admit it, it is crucial that this revelation not be buried and forgotten. And that will be the temptation, to see this as another complex, nuanced aspect of this evolving situation and to put it to one side and focus on what is tangible and observable. Putin bad, Russia's actions bad. True, not disputing that, not disputing it. But by amplifying it and extracting mitigating circumstance, that affects even the possibility of a solution being reached.
Extracting mitigating circuit. What the fuck does what does that mean? What?
Doesn't it? Because a solution often involves compromise. Why should we compromise? They're the bad ones. Well, what about all of this? So there is
what? Compromise on the biolabs. What are we compromising on? I hate this. The compromise thing is so bad, right? I don't know why people are like, I'm sorry, like if a guy is fucking like trying to murder you, like what? Does some fucking angel who happens to look like Russell Brand come down from the fucking heavens and say like, come on lads, let's just fucking compromise, right? Just let him, oh, all right, I know he wants to kill you, right? You don't want him to kill you, right? It's compromise, right? Just let him fucking kick fuck out of you for a little bit, right? Compromise, right? Virtue lies in the middle, right? In the middle. Is that what he's gonna do? Is that a good compromise? No.
A little bit of room for compromise. There is a little bit of room if the objective is only the preservation and security of Ukrainian people, of limiting the damage and suffering that they undergo. As long as there's no one that would benefit, say, from this being a prolonged conflict, like, I don't know, what, off the top of my head, weapons manufacturers, for example, let's just stick with Russia bad, Putin bad. Two things that we can be sure of. And
wait, if people like Newland and the deep state of the United States of America was so interested in an economic relationship with Ukraine, why would they want a war to happen with Ukraine? Like an everlasting war? If the same deep state that apparently, what the fuck? Isn't that like a massive conflict of interest? Anyway.
Get the complexity of geopolitics. Let's let mummy and daddy deal with it. Fingers crossed, eh? That's just what I think. You let me know what you think in the comments below.
Don't mind if I do. Russell, most developed countries have bio labs that you wouldn't want to be attacked for very obvious reasons. That's why. Okay, that's why no one, Glenn Greenwald, could have written an article about how Ukraine also has nuclear facilities that they into enemy hands, and you'd be oh god, and you'd be fucking hell, be flailing as if you've just discovered new WMDs. You're a pea brain. Your IQ should be measured in Kelvin. Should we go Should we go further? Your IQ is as low as your shirt. All right, fuck it. Stop. Okay, just stop. There we go. Okay. Comment. Your intellect is as weak as your ruble. No, stop. There's the video if you want to comment. All right, fuck. Okay, we're done. Oh shit. Yeah, we need to bring up the Has thing, because Infrared has been fucking flailing about this. He's orbited the Earth like 7 times since finding out. He's that excited. And he actually proved himself wrong with his own source. So we okay, let's maybe start from like, okay, we know all this, biolabs, whatever. Has posted this source, all right? The pathogens in Ukrainian labs vary by facility, Pope said, but some can be characterized as presenting a concern in the Ukrainian environment. As an example, he cited African swine fever virus, which is highly contagious in pigs and has caused hundreds of outbreaks in Ukraine since 2012, which is why you wouldn't want it to be attacked, right? Some labs, he said, may hold pathogen strains left over from the Soviet bioweapons program, preserved in freezers for research purposes. This was Haz's dunk, all right? And the reason I'm reading the second half is because Dustin very kindly put a little red square around it. This is from Haz's source. There is no place that still has any of the sort of infrastructure for researching or producing biological weapons. Scientists being scientists, it wouldn't surprise me if some of these strain collections and some of these laboratories still have pathogen strains that go all the way back to the origins of that program. Like, he proved himself wrong with his own source. And that's been the case with, like, hasn't that been the case with every, like, oh, things are very complex in this Russia-Ukraine thing. You know, we just don't know. But it's worth knowing that there was a coup and that that Ukraine's full of Nazis and the Crimea referendum was fair and that there are bioweapon labs in Ukraine that are targeting Russian DNA. You know, it's like that kind of thing. Like, and in all the sources that they use to prove that, like, it's just the proof is in the source. The fact that Russell Brand got so excited and fucking giddy about the word biolab, like, fucking hell. Oh, God. But you know, right? Like, this is just my opinion, right? I'm not here to tell you what I think, right? Because I think thinking's important, right? This geezer right here, this fucking bloke, don't even never even met him. Don't know guy, right? I'm not saying he's a cunt, right? Just heads up to you, right? You think for yourselves, right? Is Russell Brand, is he a cunt or is he a fanny? Comments in the below, right? Simple as. Enough said. All right. Done.